We have a number of items on the agenda which we will get to immediately. The first is to elect the new chair and vice chair and secretary of the council. Nominations?
I move that Arthur Hartel be elected chairman.
And we have a nomination for vice chairman. I will suggest that we continue with Bruce Wilson as vice chairman. And a nomination for secretary. Joan, would you? Have you been acting as secretary even though you're not a member of the council, right?
You can do that.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
But you can do that.
Sure.
And so, James, you'll nomination as secretary. Any?
I second Mr. Dolling's nomination as secretary.
Good. All in favor of the nominees?
Aye.
So moved. And Bruce, and congratulations. Thank you all. The announcement that we have tonight is really we'll get to it on old business, which is to review the proposed Comcast renewal agreement. And we will spend some time on that a little further down in the agenda. But we'll take the first report, which is from Radnor Studio 21. George, are you available, please?
I'm certainly available and here to answer any questions or queries anyone might have about Radnor Studio 21. It's nice to be back on a nice day as we go forth into, well, the end of this season and going forward to the next season. I think you know a bit about Radnor Studio 21. We're on 24/7. We are producing lots and lots of programs and fill about 42 hours of original programming every week. Then it is repeated thrice, and then there we are back at 6 o'clock in the evening, and over we start one more time. One of the things that you may have noticed is that we had been in conversations with the people down in Lower Marion about sharing our programming with them, since they don't have a functioning public access station at this moment. That is continuing on, and where it leads, we don't know, but we will certainly let you know what was happening. It would not involve any dollars or cents or any expansion. Obviously, when you're doing a television service, the number of people who watch is not indicative of the cost of creating it. Once created, it could serve one, it could serve 1,000,001. And that's the thoughts that we might be sharing with others. So those are a few of the things we're doing. We operate with 3 full-time people, including myself, and literally sometimes hundreds of volunteers. One of the big things we completed this year was a film called SEPTA in Motion, which shows us how our public transportation system works throughout the region. It has been seen in Philadelphia, and it has been seen here, and is under consideration for some national awards. It's not a bad film at all. We're rather proud of it. And that's some of what we do. We do big programs, we do little programs. One of the programs that we did this year is Nancy Valentine, who holds a PhD and is also an RN, created a series that has over 100 episodes, and it's all about health, how your health, our health in a changing world, and how you can take, well, command of it. It has involved speakers from, obviously, from HUP, Penn Medicine, Drexel, well, a lot of different places, Wills here, Jefferson, and that program is now running in Chicago as well as here. So we're producing programs that have immediate local interest. Obviously, here we are coming up on a political time. We're always seemingly coming up on a political time. And of course, all candidates that will appear on our ballot are offered a half an hour every week if they wish to use it. We've never had anybody that really did it every week, but they are there and they can come in, and it's open to all that appear on our ballot. So that will be coming up too. Those are some of the things that we can look forward right here at Radnor Studio 21. Well, of course, I'm not on Radnor Studio 21 at the moment, but I often am. Any questions you might have, I am happy to answer them.
Anybody on the board, the council? have some
Is your
questions?
programming now seen on Verizon in Lower Merion?
Oh, yes.
It is.
Thanks to Verizon, we are seeing all the way down to the Delaware border, all the way down to City Ave. It's not uniform. We're out beyond Westchester and to East Bradford and those
No, but
townships.
specifically, it's in Lower Merion.
We are in Lower Merion now. Lower Merion, if the others can better answer the penetration questions, they may not wish to, but I don't know who has the most or what the percentage of Comcast customers there are and Verizon customers there are, or dual customers there are. There are probably a limited number of people, I happen to be one of them, who has both Comcast and Verizon, but then I can watch over, if I see a problem come up on one, I go on to the other one to make sure that the problem is in their distribution and not in the fact that suddenly the station decided our computers would have an anxiety attack or something. But we can get back. We can control, oddly enough, we can control Radnor Studio 21 from wherever we are. We don't have to be at the studio to change things, to switch things, to roll new things in. That can all be remotely controlled now. So once a problem is seen, it can be addressed.
Any other board member? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, with respect to the Lower Merion discussion.
Yeah,
Oh,
there you
sorry.
go.
With respect to the Lower Merion discussions.
Yes.
Is there an anticipation, you said for the time being, I guess, that they're just expecting what we're broadcasting currently is going to be available in Lower Merion?
Well, it is, obviously right now it's available on Verizon, and it would be available on their now dark stations.
But is there an expectation at some point down the line that there'd be sort of Lower Merion focused programming that would be
That
prepared
is
by your channel?
possible. They have their own server, so they could go on and intercept. What we could give them is basically a network type of service, and then they could intercede, if you will, especially when you, perhaps with political things, and do their own programming down there. Now, who they would be at this moment is still under discussion.
And would you anticipate any kind of cost-sharing arrangement in the future to the extent that that became a reality? That
Right
they were
now, and when they went off the air, there were no funds being provided through the township. I think there had been earlier some $10,000 a year, but there never had been a major amount of money. Right now, we will simply send forth that which we are doing here. Can we cooperate with something? And right now, as a matter of fact, remember, we're very much Radnor-centric, and anyone coming from elsewhere must have some sort of support from someone from Radnor, or work here, or be a taxpayer here, or go to school here. We have a student from Haverford who goes to Agnes Irwin, she comes and interns with us. So right now, we have people from Lower Merion doing programs here, and then obviously everybody sees them, but you really wouldn't know where somebody lived unless they're running for office. Then you pretty much know where they live.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm familiar with John Ricciuti's session on veterans, and happened to be one of the ones he interviewed. But it would seem that that kind of a program would have applicability to almost any locale.
I could not agree more with you. That's why we post all those programs onto YouTube also, because we who are veterans, I count myself among those, have a story to tell that's universal, if you will, at least for America. And John has been a real go-getter until he had a recent unfortunate accident. But he'll be back, and he's doing shows. He was doing shows yesterday with us. So we couldn't go and do what we do if it wasn't for the volunteers that make it happen. Not for dollars and cents. We don't have memberships. Most access operations in the country require a membership. It could be $100 to get in. We don't. We never have. We don't do begathons, like public broadcasting is noted for. One of the reasons I'm no longer in public broadcasting. But anyway, those begathons, we don't do that. We operate on that which we can afford.
Any other questions? Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, please. We have a representative from Comcast.
Hello, my name is Kevin Broadhurst. I'm the Senior Director of Government Affairs for Comcast. My only report is that I'm here because I know the committee is considering the cable franchise agreement, and I would like to recommend that you approve that franchise agreement, which is a very generous franchise, secures a long-term franchise agreement for the Township, secures long-term funding for Studio 21 and your PEG access, and I'm here to recommend that you do approve that so that the Township Council can eventually vote to approve that. And I'm mostly here to answer any questions as well.
We thank you, Mr. Broadhurst.
For the benefit of our people who may be watching on television.
Sure.
What does that franchise agreement provide by way of funding for the PEG channels?
Well, what we're proposing right now, it's $125,000 a year, and that's in addition to the franchise fees we pay, which obviously fluctuates based on our subscriber count and our revenue, but that is anywhere between $350,000 and $400,000. So that additional $125,000 would go to fund the PEG operations.
Your franchise fee is between $350 and $400 now?
It's around $350, the last that I saw, but it can fluctuate, like I said, on any given year.
Okay, thanks. Mm-hmm. Oh, I had one other question. If there were some kind of cooperation agreement between Studio 21 and the Lower Merion Public Access Group, mm-hmm. Would there be any difficulty in interconnecting those two through
I'm not
your
sure.
server?
Somehow getting their content from the Studio 21 over to Lower Merion's residents? I'm not sure off the top of my head, just because Delaware County is serviced from a head end that is separate from Lower Merion.
That's down in Wallingford.
I'm sorry?
Is that in Wallingford?
Well, there's a number of different head ends, but I know that Lower Merion is separate from Radnor in that distribution network, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't do it. We would just have to figure out a way how to do that. So,
Could you look into that and let us know whether that is feasible for you?
sure.
Thank you.
There are no other questions. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
We have a representative from Verizon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Janet Miller. I am the FiOS TV Franchise Service Manager for Verizon. I cover all of Pennsylvania and Delaware. I've been with Verizon only about a year. My prior life was as a utility lawyer, so I am not a techie person. I can't answer technical type of questions, but I can find someone who can. This being my first meeting, I wasn't sure exactly what type of information you wanted to hear from me. The franchise agreement was signed in 2006. It's a 15-year agreement, so it expires in 2021. Franchise fees and PEG access grant money is paid on a quarterly basis. It's been paid on a timely basis during the period of time that I've been with the company. I'm not aware of any outages that required any type of notice to the township during the time I've had this position. The build is complete, so unless there is an exclusion provided for in the franchise agreement that excludes a particular property from being served, as far as I know, residents within the township have access to a Verizon Fios service if they choose to subscribe.
Thank you very much. I know George had a question for you, and the two of you have gotten together to resolve that one little issue that he had.
I'm going to put him in touch with two people to resolve one issue that has to do with pixels, because I cannot, but I can tell him who to call to get that taken care of. And he had a question about showing their programming in Upper Darby. And I'm sorry, Upper Darby is a township?
No, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I
Well,
think it's a borough.
okay, so you'll provide George with those answers?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. I know you had a long trip today, and we appreciate it. Old business, as Mr. Broadhurst has already spoken to, we have the Comcast renewal agreement before us. I'm going to ask Bruce if he would make some early comments or initial comments on the review, the process that we're going to go through, and then we'll have some general comments. Then I would like to set some additional meetings that we all can be sure that we're here for, so that we can properly address this issue on behalf of the citizens of the township. Bruce, do you want to make some comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I reviewed the process which has brought us to this point with a renewal agreement proposed by Comcast, there are several things that it seems to me need to be updated. There was a lengthy discussion of this franchise agreement in the years 2010 through 2012, I believe. But really the latest public comment that I could find, the latest financial data which I could find, which is before this council, was in 2012. And I would like to have the opportunity to update some of that. Some of it, the financial data, will presumably have to be done in executive session, since it does involve, I believe, business confidential information. The other thing is that the last public comment that we had on this franchise agreement was back in 2011 and 12. Mr. Doling, is this proposed agreement up on the township website?
I do not think so.
Okay, I think it should be put up on the township website, and we should have a hearing in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is a well-advertised hearing at which members of the public would be invited to comment upon that agreement, at which the school district would be invited to comment on that agreement. If Mr. Doling, on behalf of the government of Radnor, has any comments as to the operation of the government channel, we would be happy to have those, and further comments, if any, from Mr. Strimmel on behalf of Studio 21. So the first concern that I have is the lack of any really current information upon which to base our decision. Right. Second, since that time, there have been a lengthy process in the city of Philadelphia, which may or may not be relevant to our consideration. But there was a 571-page document which recently came out, and I have not had a
Had the
chance to
opportunity
read
to digest it.
the 571-page document. I think I should at least skim it. I have read the executive summary. So I think maybe we should put the executive summary from Philadelphia also up. And I don't want this process to degenerate into a lengthy one. So I suggest that we have a well-advertised hearing. Obviously, this is the beginning of the advertisement for anyone who's observing this meeting on television. But we should make sure that the public is aware that we are considering this agreement and invite any comments that may be relevant to the agreement.
Let me suggest 2 dates so that we keep the process moving. I'd like to suggest May 7th as the time we reconvene, which is about 3 weeks from now. And then June 2nd, which is a couple of weeks later than that. Hopefully, at that point in time, we will have conducted our review. For Mr. Broadhurst's enlightenment, or if we have changes that we are going to recommend, we will have to recommend those. I don't know quite which way we will go with the recommended changes, if there are any recommended changes. But we will have to get consent on the part of Comcast to those changes, should we recommend changes. So our process will be to take the next several weeks, look at the agreement. We will try to lift up the areas that need some concern on our part to see whether or not they are areas that we would like to have further discussion on. If our committee is in agreement on what we would recommend as changes, then we have to initiate a process to get the agreement of Comcast to those changes before we can have a submission to the commissioners for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I would certainly prefer May 7th so that this
Right,
does
May 7th.
not go out.
Is the
So this doesn't turn into a lengthy process.
Right.
If everyone else can make May 7th, I can also do June 2.
okay.
May 7th is actually the League of Women Voters are having a forum on the Common Core standards.
They canceled that meeting here. I know that.
Okay, so they're probably having it in the district.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're having it,
Okay.
but they canceled it for this room.
Okay.
I cannot do May 7th. I'm available June 2nd, I believe, but not May
Okay,
7th.
so if, we'll still try to hold it on May 7th, but we will keep you posted as to what, and if we can exchange ideas if that becomes relevant.
You can send me everybody can email me
Yeah,
and I can get it to
so
you.
let's try to tentatively, let's set May 7th, and then let's set May 2nd, subject to having to reschedule if necessary.
Did you say May 2nd or May 7th?
May 7th. 7, June 2. Okay. All right, I think we're clear. Any other comments? Okay. Is there any other business to come before the meeting? Then we will adjourn. Thank you very much.